How you gonna get in here?
Climb over.
Climb
Yeah.
You don't mind, Tom?
You made a
Climbing
maze.
on the
No,
furniture.
Made yourself right at home, haven't you? Climbing on the furniture.
Right, we're rolling.
You happy? You in?
I am, I'm in.
Feeling settled?
Cheers, Eric. Thanks, Tom.
No
Thank
worries,
you very
man.
much.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming.
thanks for having us. It's great.
No worries.
It's
Let's
nice to meet you.
start things off with a whiskey.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to surprise you what we've gone for.
No.
Can
to
you
be
guess?
honest.
Talisker.
No,
No.
no. We went very close to home.
Oh, Singleton.
Yes,
nice.
yeah.
Nice.
So
For this one here, I'll let you open it, have a look at the bottle, do the honours.
Very much. Oh, it's even got your thing on it.
Hand
Is
filled today.
You got it today. Oh, nice. Very nice.
So we
You want me to open it?
yeah, absolutely,
by all
absolutely. Just
I
yeah,
put the cork in. It's it might be a job getting it out. Nice
There
one.
we go.
Nice,
Well
well done.
It's a very sleek bottle.
Yeah, it's so it's the cask fill, the hand fill from the distillery,
Your one.
which is very nearby.
How much do you want?
Yeah, just yeah, perfect. That's lovely for me. Thank you so
Mhm.
much.
You got yours?
I think your one is there actually as well. For your boots.
Is mine there?
Don't
No.
be shy.
Am I gonna have to jump out my seat to go and get my glass? No, it's here. There we are.
Oh,
God bless you there. Bottle. Oh, thank you. Bring
welcome.
the whiskey.
thanks.
Or do you throw it away? Is it that sort
Yeah,
of
we'll figure that out in a couple of hours, I suppose, if it needs to be thrown away or not. But yeah, it's nice. We tried it when we got into the distillery. They gave us a little sample, and then we thought we'll go for the hand fill. So it's actually in the barrel, isn't it?
Yeah, so
On display in the distillery.
yeah, so there's actually a video we could show you after of how special I poured this thing.
Yeah, you did a good job.
And the labels all lined up. That was myself.
Oh, really?
That was
Good job,
myself.
What's your Slange? Cheers, guys.
Slange,
Well, listen,
Slange,
it's absolutely fantastic to be here. Thanks so
Yeah,
much for
Thank you
having
very
us.
much, Tom.
What's your whiskey?
whiskey of
What's your
choice?
whiskey background anyway? Are you a big whiskey drinker or?
I used to be more so. I still occasionally have it. What's my relationship with whiskey? I suppose, when I think of whiskey, I think of, you know what a bothy is?
Of
Yeah.
course,
I think of like end of a big hike. I love the sort of bothy culture where you know how it's this kind of free for anyone to use. So you stay in a bothy and you meet people from all around the world and stuff, and everyone just shares a wee whiskey and a bit of chocolate and stuff. So that's
love that.
Yeah, that's my
I love
kind of
that.
introduction of whiskey.
Yeah, I've got images of like the howling gale and the
Yeah,
rain
and everyone's
and
shelling
everyone
around
next-
a wee fire.
next
and,
to the fire and just having a wee
yeah.
dram next to each other. That is whiskey.
That is
that
that's
is
Yeah.
a real. That's
and
a real.
I think that's my first whiskey I really liked was Talisker.
Yes.
And
Nice
I
one.
think the only reason was it was just because I think my dad had it and I filled up a hit flask, did a hiking trip, and then just associated the taste with the bothy.
Yeah.
nice.
We spoke about Talisker actually when
We
we
did.
were on the phone.
Oh,
I
we
think
did that.
I think a few months back, and it's one of my favourite
Yeah.
distilleries.
But
I'm
these
a
days
huge
I actually
fan.
prefer a sweeter one.
Ah,
I think
right.
I went through a phase of going as smoky as I could. I went
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Lafroig and stuff, but I think I was just trying to be macho. I
Yeah.
actually like it that
There's
much.
something about that. There's something intrinsically
Yeah.
Scottish
Yeah,
about
yeah.
going for something like
Yeah.
really,
But
really
I think
smoky.
I prefer the Speyside or Sweet Highlands.
Well, this is going to be a great example of it. I think
Mm.
it came
Yeah, it's
straight
really
out of the
sweet.
cask. It's a good ABV. It's 55.4, so it's a cask strength. So
Oof.
I think, and I always use the same expression. It's like there's a sweet spot ABV. I think, and
Okay.
55's right at the top end
You
of
think
that
that's
sweet
it?
spot. I think you see the lovely legs you get on the glass, and
I think it's down to who poured it.
yeah, you think so? Who poured it
All
out
in
the
the
gas? So cheers, guys. This is going to be
Cheers.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
gonna be a great whiskey to accompany us on this conversation for sure. Anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Getting drunk at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Probably good time to introduce yourself, Tom. Tom Langhorne.
Aye, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who's Tom Langhorne?
Who am I? Who am I? There's an existential question.
Yeah, yeah.
We're going straight in the
We're
deep
starting
end. or
right
just-
out. Yeah.
It's normal.
I like a deep question, and I'm a deep thinker as well.
Yeah.
So.
So I guess I am self-employed. I make YouTube videos and teach courses around wilderness survival skills. But I also make videos a bunch of other topics. I do topics about martial arts, archery, nature, foraging, philosophy, Celtic mythology, tons of different stuff, but mainly around wilderness survival skills. And what I'm best known for is my Highlander series. So it's looking at wilderness survival skills through the context of Scottish Highlands 300 years ago. I quite like using stories as a method of teaching, because we all like stories, right? That's why we like movies and stuff like that.
That's why we like podcasts.
That's why I like podcasts. So it's a good way to explore and teach stuff. And for the last 4 years, at least, what made my channel grow was I started looking through the wider story of the 17th century Highlander, looking at the practical things of, the nuts and bolts of how they survived, what equipment, what knowledge. But then also, the more I did it, there was just endless things that you could explore in terms of culture, Gaelic culture, Celtic mythology, uses of the plants, Scottish history. So yeah.
Class.
Where does it start? So this is the thing when we're looking at your background and what you do.
Aye.
It's so unique, probably. Where did it begin? Was this a childhood thing? Were you like one of those kids that was just out there in the woods,
pretty much,
just mucking around? Is that where it's all come from? And it's just a case of just continuing that?
Yeah. The thing I say is that I'm still doing the exact same thing I was doing as a kid, just running around, dressing up as a warrior, running around the woods with a bow and arrow, but I'm just trying to justify it as a job. So my parents are both really outdoorsy. So I grew up in the central belt of Scotland, but every school holiday we're up in the Highlands. Hiking, canoeing. I think what first got me into it was fishing. My dad's a really keen fisherman, so from the age of 3 I was just obsessed with fishing. Every sort of fishing, mainly fly fishing and like remote lochs and streams and sea fishing. And I think that was the first thing that gave me the taster of, you're going out in the wild, you are stalking and effectively hunting a prey, you're catching it, you're preparing it, you're cooking it, and you're eating it, and it's this full cycle, and just being outdoors the whole time. So I think that's what initially kind of sparked my interest. And then I just loved war movies and just making weapons and all that sort of stuff, making bows and arrows. And then I got really into Ray Mears.
Yeah.
So he was my first inspiration in bushcraft, you could say. And he had this episode, he had a bunch of episodes where he'd go and stay with native tribes. And he had one that he visited Hadza in Tanzania, who were one of the last hunter-gatherers in Africa. And I was just obsessed with that episode. I just found it so cool that there was people still running around with bows and arrows, and that's all they did. And
just living in that.
Just living really like that. And I was just like, I don't want to do anything else in my life. I just want to run around the woods with my mates with a bow and arrow. And then me and my friends who I grew up with, like we had but there wasn't that much countryside where I grew up with. It's mainly fields and like clumps of wood.
Where did you grow up? Sorry?
Eastern Bartonshire. So
right, okay.
Kind of just north of Glasgow.
Yeah.
So it was a countryside, but not like the Highlands where it's like, big expanses. But we built a den in this little woodland, and we kind of formed our own tribe, and I just spend all my summer there. And I had friends who were into hunting and fishing, so I guess that's what started it. And then I guess a lot of my friends who I was doing it with kind of grew out of it and got into computer games and stuff like that, but I just carried on doing it, and I got really into making my own bows and arrows and stuff like that. I started martial arts when I was 12. I was initially introduced to Aikido. I've done bits and bobs since then, but that kind of introduced me to the martial arts side of thing. And then I just kept up the interest of survival. I was always interested in nature from a young age, just learning as much as I could, and went to university, studied ecology and environmental science, with the idea of going and being a scientist and learning about nature. But then I was wanting to do that because I wanted to be outside, but then the more you do it, you realize it's like every day you're outside, you spend a week inside doing statistics and writing grant proposals and stuff. So but when I was at uni, I started the YouTube channel just for a bit of fun. just filming outdoor adventures and stuff like that. So that was 10 years ago. It was 2012 I started the channel. And then I had the idea for the Highlander series while I was at uni, and it was sparked by my sister talking about the Great Kilt, the plaid. So I was following one of my biggest inspirations from YouTube is a guy called Dave Canterbury. I don't know if you heard of him.
Okay.
He's got a book.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. He's written what's it called? Bushcraft 101. It's like the best-selling bushcraft survival book. But he's got a YouTube channel, and he had a series looking at the American frontier. So it's, you know, historical survival skills. And he had a whole episode just talking about wool blankets and how amazing and multifunctional wool blankets are. And I remember that sparking my interest, just the simplicity of it. And then my sister, she studied Gaelic. She's fluent in Gaelic and all that stuff. She's really into Scottish history and mythology. And she was talking about the plaid. And she was just saying it was a big wool blanket. And I was like, wool blanket? Bing! Little thing in my head. I was like, whoa, that's so cool. How multifunctional is that? So that was in my mind, although I also, growing up, I heard stories of Jacobite warriors and stuff like that, and Highlanders being really tough and living out in the wild. But that what sparked the idea some point in university, and then I went travelling for a bit after uni, and I was just always had this idea that when I came home I wanted to just start, like at the time that I think the channel had a few hundred subscribers, like it wasn't big, and I was only doing a video once or twice a year. But I had this idea. I was like, oh, that's just something really interesting to explore. And I came back to Scotland, and I got a job up in the Highlands. That was kind of a seasonal job, and it was out near Bewley, actually. And I just started the series. And I did a video of me spending overnight, sleeping out, wrapped up in the plaid. And yeah, within 4 months, it went from 3,000 subscribers to 10,000 subscribers, and then it was there was something about me starting to do that just kicked off, and then I don't know, things aligned, and people were asking me to do courses and more stuff, and then I just thought, well, I'll go self-employed and see if I can make it work, and that was 4 years ago.
Wow,
well done.
Well, what was your knowledge of like Scottish Highland survival? What was your journey? I assume you were going on this sort of learning journey along with the viewers. You never started this as an expert, I assume.
No, definitely not. No, it's funny because people, I'm definitely not a historian. Like I am an outdoorsman first. I think that's what I would, if I had to rank my expertise, it would just be, I feel very comfortable in Scottish outdoors, and I know a fair amount about the nature and stuff like that. But in terms of history, I didn't know a lot. So, and I've kind of been honest with that with all my videos, or at least I hope I'm honest with just like, here's what I found out. And I guess what I like doing is just finding a few clues, because there isn't actually that much. Like, we really don't know that much about, especially this time period of history. Find a few clues, and then just go and test it out and kind of find out for myself, because there's usually only a certain amount of ways you can get a fire going or keep yourself warm and stuff like that. So that's the way that I like to approach history. But yeah, I'm learning all the time. I'm definitely not a history expert.
Nice.
Yeah, it's interesting. We say a lot of the same. It's very similar to when we talk about whiskey. On our channel, on our Whiskey Club channel, we always say we're not experts. You know, we're just here to learn and to talk about it and to garner knowledge as we go along.
Yeah.
And it's a very similar thing. And that way, I think people do enjoy learning with you.
Yeah.
And going on that journey with you. And I think we've learned so much from our viewers and from people contributing to our community. And I guess it must be the same.
Oh, definitely.
People who are watching you, there's probably quite a lot of people out there who are very well versed in this kind of stuff. And maybe you're looking at the comments going, oh, wow, I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that.
No, definitely. Obviously, you need to be careful what comments you let in your head. But you certainly, I have learned a lot, and I've met lots of people. They're doing it, and I guess, with history, I mean, it's interesting because I feel like you can be a scholar and you can be an expert about what the records are. Yeah. But especially like this time period in Scottish history, people wrote about the elites generally and the exciting things, the battles and stuff like that. It was the gentry class were the ones who were educated and writing stuff down, when the average peasant was illiterate, and people didn't find it very romantic to write about the everyday or the everyday survival techniques, because people probably thought, this is so obvious, why would I even record it?
Yeah.
So it's like, you can be for me, I feel like you can be an expert scholar, but there's just so much that we've lost just because no one recorded it.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, actually. I've never thought about it that way. You just, for granted, they don't see past the hunter-gatherer life. Whereas, maybe at some point we used to go to the supermarket. Used to get up off the couch.
Yeah, nobody's ever recorded that. Yeah, has anybody ever recorded
it's so
that?
Mundane and boring.
It's so mundane, why would you bother? Yeah, but it's interesting to us. And you make reference to 17th century a lot. Is that a specific time period, or is that a generalization?
I look around that area. I picked 17th century because, for a few reasons. So a lot of people do 18th century because that's like the last Jacobite rebellion, Battle of Culloden, stuff like that. We've got quite a lot of historical resources for that time period, and it's been made famous with like Outlander and Rob Roy and stuff like that. So I kind of wanted to approach into that, but then also not get bogged down in there. In the 17th century, just going a century before, we know less, so I felt like there was kind of a bit more kind of room to explore. Also, the bow and arrow was still being used up to 1690, and I love archery, so I kind of wanted to incorporate archery into my videos, where if you go to the 18th century, pretty much black powder firearms had taken over. And there's just something about that time period. It's just super interesting. It was like the last kind of original Celtic culture in Britain, and lots of aspects of Highland culture had remained unchanged for centuries. Even though it had been Christianized, there was underlying Celtic paganism, to use a general word, like underlying the culture. So I just felt that time period was just really interesting. I mean, my very first video, you might notice I say ancient Highlander, because I didn't want to put myself in a box. I just wanted to explore quite a wide area. But then everyone was saying, well, it's not ancient because ancient is before written history.
It's prehistory.
It's prehistory and stuff. And I was like, all right, okay. I didn't want to, but I wanted a specific title, but then also not put myself in too much of a tight box. So I felt like 17th century was a nice area. And I kind of flipped between centuries either side. So,
and I guess for us, I don't know. You've already given us you're not a historian as such, but I guess I'm interested. I wonder what the 17th century was like in Scotland. What kind of society are we looking at? What kind of civilization and society are people living in Scotland? It's hamlets and villages and little groups of populations, I think, and people living. Who was living out in the wilderness? Who was doing this kind of stuff? That's kind of where my mind immediately goes.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've got to draw a distinction between Highlands and Lowlands, because there was a big difference. I'm reading a good book at the moment, which is up there actually. I've been learning quite a lot about it. Basically, the Lowlands, mainly Scots and English speaking, and in fact Inverness would have classed as that was mainly English speaking.
Really?
But they are kind of northwest or west side, kind of a diagonal line that was all Gaelic speaking, and that was a different kind of hierarchy structure. But I guess, say if we just go somewhere really remote, somewhere Northwest Highlands, and it was small villages that were sworn allegiance to a chieftain, and a chieftain would have had a kind of a gentry class and a kind of a group of warriors, but the allegiance. So it's interesting as well, the naming system. You know how we have a first name, second name, and we have kind of we've put that over the Gaelic culture, so we, Donald MacDonald or Angus Mackenzie, but those second names were kind of they were to do with the allegiance of what clan you were, but it wasn't necessarily your family lineage. And it's now anglicised when the British Army came and started making records of people. They were the ones that set in stone these clan names when they were kind of more fluid, because it was more about who you were swearing allegiance to, and that could be flexible. That, say, it's like you were sworn allegiance to the McDonald's because they were the strongest guys, and then suddenly the Mackenzies are the big shots, and they're the guys who are going to give you the best protection. You could change. You could, and then you could take on that name. So I can't remember your question. What was life in that?
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's just interesting when I think about you talking about 17th century Highland sort of survival. Who was out there?
Yeah,
who was out in the wilderness?
In the wilderness, yeah.
Like with a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
Who was it? Was it just specifically the hunters?
Yeah, I guess what I'm really interested in as a good story is the drovers. Have you heard? You know what a drover is?
No.
So it's basically a Highland cowboy. Okay. So you know how cattle was the main economy. There was no money. Wealth was to do with livestock. And a drover was basically people that drove cattle from different areas to the main markets. The main markets were in Falkirk, Glasgow, Edinburgh, or sometimes right down into England. And these guys, drovers, were basically entrusted in people's wealth. And it was amazing in the trust that would have. So say if you lived somewhere, let's say Applecross, somewhere quite remote, you're one of like your life savings is a cow. Okay, you entrust it to a drover who's going to drive it all the way down to Falkirk, walk it all the way down to Falkirk, sell it, get the money, walk all the way back, and remember who he gave that money to and give you the money.
Right.
So that's how much like trust these guys were given.
Seems loose.
It's loose, yeah.
Wow.
It's loose, and people had IOU notes, and then people would trade IOU notes. So this is quite interesting. The beginning of paper money. It's like, but anyway, these guys they couldn't go. I mean, there was no main roads in the Highlands till after the last Jacobite rebellion. It was all just pony tracks and dirt tracks. But they had to usually avoid the main settlements because they had hundreds of cows. You couldn't just drive hundreds of cows through someone's fields. So they had to go skirt around into more remote areas. These guys were just, they weren't staying in people's houses. They were sleeping out in the open. And they were also protecting themselves from bandits because people were always trying to steal the cattle. So these guys were just out in the sticks, like constantly just driving the cattle, on walking for months on end. So that was a great story to look at because these guys were traveling light. They knew how to defend themselves and defend the cattle. They knew they're absolute masters of being out in the elements all the time. And these guys really just had, a pack with some food and they're played. If you're wealthy, you might have a pony to carry some extra supplies, but some guys might not be wealthy enough. So the drovers are a great kind of story to look at from a survival perspective.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
I love that. That.
It's the records of these guys.
Oh yeah.
So
there's a great book called The Drove Roads of Scotland.
Right.
And there was a description from 1723, so that's the start of the 18th century. There's a written record of what a drover looked like and was carrying. So I've got a video where I do a 4-day expedition with that equipment, and I base as close as I can to that description. So the colour they're played, what they're carrying, what food would they have eaten, stuff like that.
You made reference to the plaid a few times.
Aye.
I just want to be absolutely sure what it is you're talking about.
Yeah, the great kilt.
Yeah.
So the precursor to the kilt. It's basically a really big blanket.
Yeah.
So it's between 4 and 5 meters long, about 150, 1.5 meters wide. Just a thick wool blanket. So that was a precursor to what we would now call the kilt. Okay. But the word kilt comes from Old English to gather. So it's that pleating.
Okay.
And plaid comes from pladger, which just means blanket in Gaelic.
And they wore these and they used these were just multi-purpose.
Yeah.
Just for sleeping, for keeping warm, for wearing.
Yeah, their jacket, their sleeping bag, their main outer garment. Again, I've got a couple of videos exploring different ways of wearing it, but it's basically a blanket that you pleat so that you can get it around your waist, and then by folding it, you can create pockets for carrying equipment, and then the kind of excess you can pull over you like a cloak or do across your body to have a kind of backpack. So just super multifunctional things. So this is what I like exploring history through the survival perspective, is because it's all about simplifying life. There's absolute basics, and that's what I say quite a lot of intro of my videos is like, what I love about it is to simplify life to its absolute basics, because there's something that I just love about bringing everything down, getting right down to the foundations of what we need to survive. And there, it's like if you can become confident in that, then just like a house needs strong foundations, you've got strong foundations for everything else that you want to do in life. So that's what I love about it.
On the back of that, is there more to it then? You've basically said there is almost building the foundations for life. There's more to it than just I'm creating content and I'm living the dream because this is what I've loved as a youngster. I say living the dream. I assume from your passion you're living the dream. Yeah. Living your dream, of course. And yeah, so is the world today, is that something that you're like, I'm just so glad that I can be away from that? Or is it not that deep?
No, I do have a very deep side of things. Like, generally in my videos, I do quite like to keep it lighthearted, but the underlying thing I do like deep. Yeah, the depth of things, deep conversations. I've got some very philosophical videos in there as well. And ultimately, what keeps me going with the videos is a deeper aspect of it, I suppose. It still is just fun.
Yeah.
Right? I'm making a living from dressing up as a warrior and running around the woods. Like, who doesn't want to do that?
Yeah.
Listen, don't play it down, because I'm sure you're working super hard on it. You don't get over 200,000 subscribers by just running about the woods. There's a lot to it, man. So well done.
I guess when I started, I tried to, because I don't like being put into too small a box, or for my work to be put in a smaller box, but I was trying to think of a statement, like a mission statement. Or you guys, a business might make a mission statement or something. Yeah. And the closest thing I got to is the aim of all my work is to reconnect with our natural and cultural heritage through the practice of wilderness living skills in order to ground ourselves in the foundations of human resilience. So that was like the closest I could.
You've nailed it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So there is a very obvious and clear connection to nature and to wilderness. I think also what Harvey was kind of alluding to, but didn't maybe quite say it as such. Is there a discontent for modern society in there as well? Does that make up part of what you're doing?
Partly, yeah. Basically, what I mean by grounding is you strip away everything. So with survival, you say you're going out, spending even just one night in the woods with just a blanket, flint and steel, and a knife. You've stripped everything away, and all the things that clutter our mind and clutter the modern day, and you're right back down to the basics. Then you can come back and you are absolutely amazed by running water coming out of a tap, or the fact I can switch on heating by pressing a button, or the fact I can go to the supermarket and buy a plastic wrapped bit of meat. I don't even need to chase it. Right. So it's both. It's maybe at the start I was kind of wanted to slag off the modern world, but actually it's about appreciating it. We have come so far and we are so lucky, and if you look at history, things can just change so quickly, and empires rise and fall. So it's, when I say ground, it's to get a perspective so that you can come back to the modern day. And yes, there's plenty of things that we can change, there's plenty of things we can improve on, but majority we're doing quite well. But I feel like we will destroy it unless we appreciate it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I've got to say that was an exceptional answer.
Was it?
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because you are a paradox actually. When you break it down, you're somebody who's creating content. So you're the ultimate modern man, right? You're out there creating YouTube content. Your videos are getting over 1 million views. Like, you're super successful on YouTube, which is, you can't get more modern day than that. And then on the other hand, you're out there running around in a plaid in the rain, being a 17th century warrior. So it's it is that juxtaposition of the the two sides, and it's interesting to hear you say that the grounding is more about the appreciation when you come back than it is for this like this sort of level of disdain for the modern world, because I don't get that impression that you have that.
So I do have a whole video on the subject. It's called what was it called? The Hunter-Gatherer's Guide to the 21st Century.
Nice.
So it's basically, I start the video with that it's kind of a comedy thing. That's a conversation between hunter-gatherer Tom and modern Tom. Right. And then I start the video saying that I am living these two paradoxical lives. I have to spend a lot of time on social media and on a computer editing stuff. But then also I spend a lot of time in the woods at a signal and trying to live very historically. So it made me think about the challenges that humans have faced. And I think humans have always faced challenges, right? They just change. And I guess in that video, I wasn't seeing it as I wasn't trying to judge whose problems were worse, right? But it's just how they've changed. So I guess that's what I mean by a grounded perspective. It's just going right back to basics so that you can see everything with a clear eye again.
And it's, from our point of view, I think if it just in terms of how genuine this is, one of the first messages you sent us was, I'll be back to you in a few days. I'm going out in the woods for 4 days. I'll not have my phone, so I'll speak to you guys on Wednesday. I was like, what? So is that a common occurrence? Do you sort of like just disappear for a couple of days on end? What is what you live here with your partner, with your girlfriend? Do you just wave goodbye to her on a Friday afternoon? Like, how does it look? What happens?
It depends. So basically, I bought a bit of land last year, and the idea is it's going to be a base for the channel. We're also kind of making a bit of a rewilding project there, and eventually I'm hoping to build a bit of a off-grid living situation.
That's amazing.
So we just kind of mix up. It really depends on what's going on, I suppose. So my partner does come out as well with me sometimes, but it kind of depends whether it's doing a building project or if I'm preparing for a course or if I'm doing a video. It's just easier to be out there for consecutive days, so it might just be like, all right, planning to go out, this week. And
you just go.
Just go, And I do get a bit of signal, but I have to climb a hill. But it's nice. So I go out and I just got everything I want, and usually I write a script for a video, and then I just go out there, and it's nice to get away from it all and just be back in the woods.
And that's the appreciation when you climb that hill and you get to make a phone call.
Exactly, yeah.
That's just it in a microcosm.
I'll be back tomorrow. Make sure the baths run.
Exactly, yeah. And you do. That's why I think you need to constantly reset it. And what's good about grounding, about going and doing something really uncomfortable, it's almost like a reset for your dopamine, because our mind is always looking for the next high, the next thing, right? And it's like humans were just like, most religions talk about this underlying thing that there's always suffering, right? There's always what the Buddhists would call dukkha, thirst. There's always something that doesn't make us quite happy. As soon as we've got something, we're also looking at the next thing. And what's quite nice about it is going and doing something really uncomfortable, like just lying out in the rain in the blanket. You come back and all those things that you didn't appreciate, like Wi-Fi, a shower, running water, clean bedding, a conversation when you've been out alone for days, and then you come and a human. Then you've kind of reset your mind, and there's something quite beautiful about that.
And it doesn't change. You feel that every time.
Pretty much.
Come back.
Pretty much.
And is that part of the clientele clientele, is that the right word? Those that join you for a course, are those who is that? Is that people that are coming to, I want to like detox from the world, I want to go away so I can come back and appreciate things, or is it like, I've watched your videos, man, I'd love to learn how to fish with a thorn,
It's probably more of that. I couldn't really, for the Highlander stuff, the clientele, it's mainly guys who are interested, have seen the videos and they're just interested in that time period of history and stuff like that. But then my general courses, there is no similar person, but mainly they've just seen the videos and they're genuinely interested in the things I talk about.
That could be the next video.
What?
You, me, and Tom in the wilderness.
Us three out in the wilderness.
Yeah.
I wouldn't last 5 minutes out there. It's freezing.
Supply the whiskey.
It's
the whiskey's
freezing
more, right?
out
So
there.
Tom will keep us warm, and we'll
I'll
keep
sit in
him.
the car.
We'll keep him.
We'll keep him quenched.
Topped
Yeah,
up.
quenched. That's the one.
I'll sit in the car with the heating on and watch you guys. That'll be fine. You're a big fisherman. We watched.
Yeah.
You like fishing?
Yeah.
Oh, massive. And
I was a
um,
big fisherman. I was laughing watching your video of you making a.
Oh, the primitive one.
Yeah, last time we went fishing, Harvey's got every piece of modern fishing gear you could ever imagine. I was laughing.
It is more effective. There is
But it was funny because I kind of said to Simon, I was like, I did not realise. I'm like, I'm sure I've seen this video.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sure,
right.
I've seen this video.
Oh, cool.
Because my algorithm, if you like, is it fluctuates between when the fishing season either ends or it's just starting. It's full of fishing videos.
Oh, okay.
The middle of it is fishing videos.
Yeah.
In between, it's football and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's came up there because obviously it's
The
so
primitive
unique.
one got
so
quite
unique.
a lot of views. So yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that might have,
Yeah.
I made a 17th century one as well, fishing kit, but the algorithm didn't pick it up as much as the primitive one.
What was the primitive one with the nettles?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Sure, why not?
And
It's in Dutch. That's grand. Thanks.
I'm alright for now. Have you ever caught on the? Listen, we can cut this. We can cut this.
On the primitive, I haven't, but I've actually only tried twice, and it wasn't in a great river. I do need to do it more. I've caught on my 17th century one though, which is hemp mainline and horsehair snood.
Okay.
So the leader is the hair of a horse's tail.
Right.
And just a crooked pin, so it's literally a bit of metal wire bent.
Yeah.
So I've got a trout on that.
Nice.
But I should try more with the
Listen,
primitive.
you can go fishing with the best kit.
Yeah.
You can go fishing for a week with the
Exactly.
best kit and not
Still
catch
not
anything.
anything.
So
Exactly.
I'm certainly I'm not judging. Listen,
That's
but I
the
was
thing
just
though,
super
it's because it
intrigued.
took so long to make it. It's like I also don't want to use it because
In
it
case
can
Yeah.
break or
in
get
case it
lost.
goes wrong,
And I
yeah.
use it as a lot of my crafts. I kind of like to keep because I use them as show and tell on my courses.
Right.
Yeah.
So then it's like, oh, if I use it and I break it, then I don't have it for show and tell. But no,
You have to
I
make
do wanna
another
try
one.
it. Yeah, no.
So you made one out of nettles? Is
Nettle
that right?
fibre,
You
aye.
pulled it
Yeah,
apart, and made
yeah.
it out of nettle fibre, which
Yeah.
is just crazy.
Waxed it all. And,
Yeah,
It's mad. isn't
yeah,
it?
that was cool. That
Where
was
did you
super.
learn that? Do you learn that in books, or are you out there? Is there techniques that you think that you've kind of just honed yourself over the years that you've come up with?
Some things. I mean, the cordage. It's. I guess I learned maybe on a YouTube video years ago when I was just getting into bushcraft, and then taught courses through a company, and then made friends with other instructors and stuff. So you learn a lot just hanging out with other people. So I guess it was accumulation of that from books and from other people and YouTube videos. I guess some things you work out. My friend and I, we kind of joke that how did our ancestors figure it out? It's just like you're just messing about. Right? You're just what if I hit this with that, or what about if I twist that, or mix this up? You're just you spend enough time messing around and stuff. You do figure it out.
Yeah, I suppose necessity also would expedite that process,
Yeah.
wouldn't it? If you need something to survive, you're going to find a way. Like human beings are pretty resourceful, I think.
Yeah.
Even the modern man like myself could probably find a way.
Figure it out,
Find a way. I'm not saying I would survive out there, but you find a way to figure out some of the problems. I think.
Yeah, you'd be diving head first trying to bite the fish or something.
Well, I don't want to get wet though.
How can I do this from my window?
Yeah. From the out the car window.
One of the survival kind of questions that I'd wanted to ask is: there something that you've tried that nobody would have thought of eating that you're like, that is delicious and people should try it?
Like a wild edible plant or something?
Yeah,
or
well,
a
the
recipe?
the nettle, for example. I know you kind of nettle soup. It's not you don't see it on menus, but I suppose people know that you can eat that.
Yeah.
And you mentioned in one of the videos actually, is it one of the most nutritional plants out there? Is there something that you're like, I've tried this, and you know what? I would eat this in the house.
Wild edibles. I wonder. So, a lot of wild edible food. It's it's not that great, to be honest. Or there's always a reason why we've gone for cultivated food. I would say when you find a good patch of pig nuts, those are delicious.
What's that?
Pig nuts. So it's in the carrot family.
Okay.
It's got quite a short growing season. You'll find them between like May and July. But it's just a wee white umbrella flower. And it's cheaper. If you're lucky, you can find them. They're about the size of a golf ball. Most of the time, they're only the size of a marble. But you dig them up, and they taste somewhere between a parsnip and a hazelnut.
Oh,
and
wow.
if you roast them, really good, really tasty, and they've got carbohydrate and stuff in them. But they're called pig nuts because the pigs love them.
Right.
And my bit of land, there's a wild boar, and they tear up the ground for them. So you've kind of got to like get to them before the wild boar do.
Do you like hunt animals?
Not yet. I am gonna go down the route of getting a firearms license. And then that'll be in the.
What about bow and arrow?
Fortunately, illegal in the UK.
Is it?
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
What's it? Wow.
In America, you're allowed to use the bow and arrow.
So you're not. Oh God.
Is that because you're not guaranteed to kill it?
Yeah,
more than anything else.
I'm not entirely sure. It could be because you can't license it. Anyone can make a bow and arrow. Anyone can buy a bow and arrow. It also could be it takes years of practice in order to hit something effectively. So you might just wound it.
Yeah.
And not kill it quickly.
That's
when a bullet is going to kill something much faster.
Yeah.
So but you could just make a bow and arrow, right?
Yeah. Anyone can make a bow, and you can buy a bow and arrow without license.
But just not stick it on your
you're not
YouTube
like-
channel.
You're not allowed to use it to hunt. Yeah. But you're not allowed to use it specifically to hunt with. You can walk, or you could be out there with a bow and arrow. Right?
Yeah. If you've got a proper reason, it's like anything.
I suppose. Yeah.
Practicing archery.
Well, I suppose it's like a knife, isn't it? You can't just carry knives around, but you can use them if you've got a reason.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't realise that. So you've got wild boar out there.
Yeah.
You're just gagging to catch a wild boar.
Yeah.
He's eating pig nuts and he's got a wild boar like right there. You know what I mean? Could be having a roast.
Yeah. I suppose the best tasting wild animal is going to be fish and animals. I suppose.
Nettle tea and some pig nuts for dinner.
Nettles are tasty, I'd say, if you prepare them right. Also cattail, you know the reeds you see growing inside of lochs, they kind of look like a sausage on a stick.
Yeah.
Yep.
Seen them? The roots of them, full of carbohydrate.
Oh.
But like many other wild edibles, there's always a catch. Basically, their roots are full of indigestible fibers.
Right.
So you can't just eat it. You have to like roast it and like peel the carbohydrate like through your teeth.
Yeah.
Or boil it, have the carbohydrate float to the surface, and you scoop it off. Everything takes a lot of work, but that tastes like potato, like some potato.
What mushrooms? You're getting mushrooms out there.
Yeah, so mushrooms, you do need to be a bit careful.
Yeah.
With the mushroom world, I tend to just stick to mainly ceps, so Boletus edulis and chanterelles, because it's really hard to mistake them for poisonous ones, and they're the tastiest. There's thousands of other edible ones, but some of them are so close looking to the poisonous ones, and they don't even taste that good that I just don't see the point in risking it.
Do we have those out here in Scotland? Do we have like poisonous mushrooms?
Oh yeah. We got the death cap, panther cap, destroying angel.
They've got such a cool
who named
Destroying
these?
Angel?
What a cool name for a mushroom, man. That's so cool.
Yeah. Devil's Bleat. All those will kill you.
I want to know who's naming these mushrooms.
Yeah.
Somebody that's had a few, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's
something they've seen after.
I guess that's always something I thought just was in other countries, because we don't have many. We don't have many dangerous things in the UK.
Yeah.
Scottish
We've got some
Highlands.
we've got hemlock as well, and foxgloves, also very poisonous plants.
Yeah.
What's have you had any touch and go moments? Any dangerous, scary moments?
This is your vulnerable chance.
Vulnerable, tear up for the camera. Not too bad, luckily. I've been at situations where I've got very cold. Not doing the Highlander stuff, but just generally either solo trips or kind of hill walking trips where the weather has caught you off guard, and it's kind of that thing where it's like, I'm going to survive if I keep moving, but if one of us twists an ankle and we start staying still, we're going to get hypothermia like very quickly. So I've been a few times of that, being like humbled by weather in the mountains.
Really?
And once got a mushroom wrong, but it was just a bitter elite. So it doesn't kill you, it just tastes horrible, and it ruined the thing I was making. It kind of gives you an upset stomach.
Yeah.
That's kind of it. I did a trip in the tropics once, and I got an infected foot, but I was lucky I got back and got antibiotics and stuff. But so far, touch wood, there's not been anything too bad.
The weather's the big equaliser, isn't it?
Yeah,
the weather's the
Scotland.
one that's just like, if that turns on a sixpence, there's nothing you can really do about it. And even, I've done, it's not a huge amount, but I've done sort of Monroes and some walking. I've been out in the Highlands. I love the Highlands, so we're always out here in the Highlands, and you just see people like walking and they're just in their shorts and wearing trainers. I'm like, if this turns, you're in serious trouble.
Yeah, and you could do it, 10 times on the nice day, and you don't get caught out. But then it's just like changes.
I've seen it so many times. People climbing Monroes.
My mate did the 3 Peaks challenge. I'm gonna do it. He's one of those guys. He's kind of good at everything. Big muscly guy, and he just 3 Peaks challenge in a pair of like his gym shoes. He just
pair of Nike Cortez and a pair of shorts.
Yeah. And he was okay, but of course it is that. It's like
luck of the draw.
Yeah, because you've seen it so much. I've seen it time and time again when you're 3/4 of the way up in Monroe and it's all going rosy and you're too hot and the sun's piping, and then it's like a click of a finger and it's the hair comes over and it gets cold and it's like, this could go badly if we don't turn back. So that's interesting.
So you've got we were saying over 200,000 subscribers. What's the goal? Not that I imagine if you hit 1 million, you don't want to stop at 1 million. But is the goal to grow the channel? Is the goal to be able to just go off grid for weeks at a time? What's the ultimate goal for Fandabby Dozy? I don't think we've talked about that either.
The goal, I would say, it's just to have a sustainable business model so I can keep doing what I'm doing, because I'm really enjoying it. Keep making videos in the same kind of style, so a mix of the Highlander series, a mix of the more kind of martial art philosophical videos, and just continue doing what I'm doing, learning as much as I can, and ideally have a fully live off grid, a full off grid living system, and just a sustainable business. I guess I'm kind of at that point, where you can either grow or stay small, and I guess I'm kind of figuring that out, because it's one of these things. Sometimes if you go and try and grow, then you just end up being the admin person and not being out doing the fun stuff. So I guess just keep doing what I'm doing, but just streamline it, and ideally make it so I don't need to spin so many plates. I suppose I can just run by itself. And I guess what gets me excited is the creativity. I'm like, that's what gets me really excited about stuff, is thinking of a video idea, exploring a topic, trying to say like the unsayable. So, and then teaching courses. I find that although sometimes it's really tiring teaching courses, especially survival ones, you're like really responsible for people because you're out in the sticks and sleeping overnight in the wild and stuff. But the occasional course, I find that really rewarding. So basically just continue and just find a sustainable way to keep going.
You said you picked up a piece of land and you've got there's a house there.
There's a wee shed. Just a wooden shelter and a big tent at the moment. That's all I managed to do. But the idea is to have a cabin that's got, its own renewable energy system, and basically it can be a place to live on and off, and use the bit of land as a base for filming, base for teaching, but also both my partner and I we're interested in rewilding, like greater side of rewilding, and the aim for the land I would like to see is like, can you meet your basic human needs from it in terms of getting enough firewood and enough food and enough water without compromising biodiversity. So like still making sure there's a diversity of trees and different habitats, and allowing space for wildlife, but also like a patch for your own veggie patch and stuff like that. And
how big's the land?
7 acres.
Wow.
It's pretty big.
But it's mainly heath, woodland, bit of bog. So it's not a field. It's gonna need taming in certain areas. But then it's a great chance to explore how our ancestors did it. How did they tame the land? You could use the word break the land, or work with it to get some food off it, but without just doing what humans usually do, which is just flatten it, bulldoze it, make it level, drain it. So it's kind of, I want to explore. I don't know how exactly how to do it, but I want to use it as a place to explore. You can do it.
That's what we spoke about at the start, though, isn't it? Is that you learning how to do that?
Exactly. I generally have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's what people want to see, isn't it? They want to see you go on that journey and learn about, what's you learning about how to do it. What's there naturally? Like, what are you able to sort of forage there naturally at the moment, and what do you see in the future in terms of, right, this is what I've got now, but in a year's time I want this.
So it's mainly birch forest. It's mainly birch trees, it's heath. It's got a stream, luckily, so I've got running water.
Fish?
There is some fish. Probably not. There's wee trout. Probably not enough to. I kind of just leave them alone. It's probably not enough to really. Not worth eating them. Right. It's just nice to see them. But I guess in the future I'd like to introduce more diversity of trees. Some just for the sake of biodiversity. Things like oak and aspen and ash and stuff would be great to bring in. But then also some for cultivating, so hazel and willow, just great sticks. Willow especially in the bog, you can plant them in the bog and they kind of help with drainage, but they also just grow nice and straight, and you can weave baskets and make walls and make woven walls and stuff. So I'd love to get that going. And then also a few places of just experimenting with different kind of low maintenance food. So whether it's raised beds or there's some more ancient methods of growing food where you basically disturb the land. Say with pigs, you could get a couple of pigs with an electric fence that you can move around, and you have them on a plot of land for a few months and they just dig it all up. And you move them on, and then you can scatter. There's like ancient varieties of parsnip that you just throw the seeds at, and they just pop up wherever they pop up, and they, you can kind of learn with the forest. It's like, so you're still, again, rather than just clearing the trees, you're planting edible food that can grow in a bit of shade, and stuff like that. So I just want to experiment with things like that. So yeah, hopefully in the future there'll be more diversity in terms of wild forest, but then also some cultivation of crops for growing and food.
Cool.
Have you ever had any issues on other people's land? I know Scotland pretty much
Right to roam.
Yeah. However, in England and Wales, you can't even camp without permission. You get moved on in an instant.
Something I love about Scotland.
Oh, for sure. We were kind of talking about it on the way here. I can't believe you can't do it down there.
It seems absurd that you can't do it, but you can't. Yeah, we're the exception to the rule.
Yeah. My girlfriend's from Ireland, so I've been there a couple of times, and there's just all these signs like trespassers will be prosecuted, and
like farmers with shotguns.
Yeah, it's like, but I could just cut across a field.
Yeah.
And there's like no place to walk. It's like I would just be like, just jump the fence and walk that way. It's like,
You ever had any troubles here, or did people generally just leave it alone anyway?
Never had any trouble. I've always been very careful at leave no trace. I think that's really important. Everywhere you go, just make sure it doesn't look like you've been there. No, never had any problems. It's
interesting hearing you talk about the piece of land you've got and what you're going to do with it. Except I actually am thinking, I don't know if you've seen these two guys. They're like Thai YouTubers, and they build stuff. They build like pools and stuff.
I don't know how they do that. Yeah, they seem to have very good malleable soil.
They're amazing. Have you seen these guys? The soil is made of clay basically, so they can dig down and they can
do whatever you want.
And the guy's just in the forest in northern Thailand, just in a pool that he's built.
It's like I've seen one. He makes it. It's almost like a spa under the ground.
He makes
and they're using like primitive tools, aren't they?
They're using primitive, and
they
it's
can
all
stick
done
in a basket.
That's what you need to do, man. Forget your parsnips. Get a Highland pool built.
I mean, you try it once and it'll just be rock. Rock and clay and tree roots.
That'd be a lot of fun though. That'd be a lot of fun.
How are you finding the whiskey?
Oh, it's lovely actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
It's a lot of berries.
I prefer the sweet one. Yeah, I'm getting raisins.
Yeah.
You taste raisins?
Yeah.
I got a lot of we tried it in the distillery. I had a little sample in the distillery. I get loads of cherry actually straight on the palate as soon as I taste it. I get loads of cherry.
Quite berry for me.
It's really berry,
This actually takes us down a slightly different road. I sometimes think, even when talking about whiskey, I run a whiskey club full time. It's a full time job, and I still have this imposter syndrome where talking about whiskey, I feel like, oh, there's guys out there that know more than me, and that's my own kind of personal journey through this as well. And it's also
a healthy amount of
that's the internet.
As well.
But you touched on at the beginning some of the comments you got and whatnot. Now, I've obviously gone through, I've looked at videos, like I said, I stumbled across one without knowing it was you. And loads of your stuff, from what I've seen, is super positive, but what negatives do you get? Who's out there? I know it's the internet, and that's it, but what's your journey with 200,000 subscribers, millions of views? Like, what happens there? Tell me.
A few bad eggs in there.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, and it's funny. I think humans we've got a negative bias, right? With anything, we remember negativity more because it's more useful for survival. That's like there's brain science talking about how we've got a negative bias. So yeah, it's part of the thing. And I think it's funny how when I started the channel, I just didn't care because I wasn't doing it for any reason. So any negativity, I'm like, it's just for I'm just making the videos for my family and friends. But then when I went self-employed and there was an element of like, okay, I'm trying to make this work for a living, then I think I went through a phase of being a bit more sensitive. But now I just realize it's the internet. Majority of things are positive, and it's just, for me, I just need to have a healthy relationship with social media in general, because it's it can mess with your mind if you're on it too much. So it's just about remaining detached to it and just seeing it as a tool. And so I guess that's my journey with it. But yeah, most of it is all positive. And it's like anything. I learned a lot from people saying certain stuff. Generally, directly with the YouTube comments, it's overwhelming because there's thousands, right? And you can't just filter through them all. But often people get in touch, and if someone offers you constructive criticism, in like a normal human way, that's, hey, I really like this, but you've done this slightly wrong, and here's a reference, here's a book, you can learn that. But great work. And it's like, oh, amazing, thank you. Yeah, feedback. That's great. I'm all out of feedback.
Online.
Yeah, online. Like, most of the time it's just, people obviously got nothing better to do.
Just getting corrected on minute details.
Yeah,
that kind of thing that you get.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, we get a lot of the similar stuff.
details, but everyone, it's just like that's just.
Good. Well, we're lucky in a way that there's two of us. Because I know obviously you've got friends and family and a partner who you can turn to, but like if it's directed at us, it's directed at the two of us. So it's like half day. It's like it's okay.
It does feel that way.
It doesn't really bother us anymore. Right at the beginning,
we used to be more sensitive.
Right at the beginning, and it's probably the same as you talking about. Where I'm trying to make it work as full time. That's kind of we started off with a goal as a business. Do you know what I mean?
And it gets confusing because you're both wanting to offer what people want, but then you're also wanting to do what you want to do. But then it's really hard to know what people want because you're basically, I like to say it's like, imagine if you had 200,000 people out there in the field and you said, what do you think of this idea? It's like, it's not that helpful. So it's kind of like, that can be overwhelming. Like you've both got to listen to what people want, but just kind of take everything with a grain of salt. Mainly just focus on yourself because that's all you can control.
Yeah, for sure.
Fighting the temptation to not reply to people is the big one for me. So I'll write out this big reply and I'm like, I'm going to get into an argument with this person, and then Harvey will be like, right, if you wrote out your response now, and I'm like, yes, he's like, now delete it.
Yeah, just send it to me.
Send it to me instead. So I will get into an argument with this person online. But it's exactly as you say. Well, they're not trying to constructively, or they're not giving you what I would call feedback in a way that is kind and considered, compassionate, and for a purpose, to actually make you better, to try and help you. They're just we get it with the people will say, we'll say, oh, this bottle's worth £500, and then somebody will say, oh, it's worth £350, and you're like, really? Is that not? Is that? what's that? What are you trying to achieve?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
we'll get that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
where
it's
people
not worth £1,000. It sold at £950 at the last auction.
Yeah.
Are you looking at auction prices? You're looking at retail
like,
price or the high street
I've
shop.
rounded up, man.
Yeah, we just found our price. That was all. So so we get it, and I guess it's
you just got to detach from that completely, really.
Well, I think your phrase was perfect. Having that healthy relationship with social media is so important, and I think
Joe Rogan says post and ghost. And
is that right?
Do that. Post it
nice.
And ignore it. Just
so I do. I tend to because usually, say if you've spent weeks working on a video, you are quite sensitive about it, right? You poured your heart and soul into it, and I check the comments to start with just to make sure I haven't made any big
glaring
mistakes,
errors,
glaring errors, and then I just try not to look at it for at least a couple of weeks, and then it's like you don't feel as attached to it, and you've kind of gotten over you forgot how much work it took.
That's a nice way to do it.
And then you can go back at it with a critical eye.
Post and ghost.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's good.
That's pretty good.
What's the big plans? Like, do you have times of the year that you know you're going to do this video? Is it structured what you post to a certain extent?
Certain extent. I try to post once a month at least. Generally, the last couple of years, I got a good sponsorship from Wandrium, which is like a online learning, online courses, and they offered me a generous amount per video. So, and the last couple of years they give me 4 videos a year. So I was using that as okay. At least I know, because it's always hard with YouTube to get in because you never know what you're going to get from the ads, right? And it's so hard to know what video is going to do well. So the ones that I put more effort in for at least the last couple of years were the ones sponsored, because at least I knew I've got a lump sum that is worth putting my time into that.
Yeah.
So the last couple of years I've structured my main ones, the ones that I know are going to take a lot of time, with those ones. And then I just kind of see what is organically coming, whether it's time of year, ideas. I usually just what's motivating me, what's exciting me, because I've got a journal that I just brainstorm a bunch of ideas, and then it's kind of like, right, I've got a video coming up, and I look at all the ideas and I just let them ruminate in my mind, and what one tells me what to do, what comes forward and gets me motivated and excited, and then that's what I do, I guess. But they just kind of organically go. So I'm planning some for next year. Some take props. I'm getting people to help me out. So there's one I really want to do called, I'm going to call it Targe Torture. So you know the shield, the Targe, the short shield. It's a shame I don't have mine with me.
No, you got one.
Yeah, a shield. It's a small shield that Highlanders used from late 16th century up to 18th century.
Okay.
But especially 17th and 18th century, they were becoming small and thick and very studded with metal in an effort to try stop musket balls. And there's some evidence that they did stop musket balls, and some people says it's a load of rubbish, but I'm gonna get a bunch made. So they're basically made with two sets of planks of wood with the grains going opposite, so that if one splits and the other one's there, sometimes they've got layers of felt or layers of metal in between. And basically I'm gonna get a bunch of shields made and test different swords, different bows, and I know a guy with a musket and he's gonna shoot it, and we're gonna see if it actually works. So that's one that I've been, because I'm getting different guys making different shields, because there's different ways of making it. The cheapest one was a whiskey barrel lid.
Oh, nice.
So whiskey barrel lid with some leather wrapped around it.
Cool. And
some straps for your arms. I want to do one about how Highlanders lit their house, so just different rush lamps, different kind of lamps basically that people lit their houses with. So I'm getting some guys making them. And then I've got some martial art ones in my mind, and then I'd also like to do different expeditions. The longest one I've done is 4 days. I would like to increase that a bit. And
that's just you out.
Yeah.
Just living in the
doing an expedition
in the wilderness, foraging
with the Highlander kit, so it's more of a journey.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
Cool. That's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah. Oh man, I love the idea. Me, Tom, Simon, whiskey, fishing, perfect.
4 days
up the hill. You can go up the hill to get signal.
Yeah. I'll drive up. Just as you're talking about props there as well, we've got some props here to our left.
Yeah.
What have we got? It's
Different
there's
stuff.
a big sword there,
It's a
which I'm
big sword.
interested
It is a blunt one.
in. It's a-
Really happy to hear. So this is the basket hilted broadsword. So this was the favourite sword in the Highlands for, I guess, 300 years, 250 years. This has got a blunt training blade.
Very nice.
So, but it's a realistic weight. So this is for HEMA, it's so for actual fighting each other. You wear armor, but you do fencing. But it's a realistic weight.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's basically a one-handed sword.
Oh yeah, I'll have a shot at
that.
So this is for training.
Yeah, that's a training blade. Yeah, but with a realistic weight of what they would actually weigh.
Oh, but so the sword would be used for combat.
Yeah.
It's cool, and this is to keep your hand warm.
Yeah. Stop. Sometimes the metal basket can grate on your knuckles a bit.
Oh yeah.
Want a shot?
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, it's
I don't thought we getting a shot of a sword.
It was a weapon popular in Europe, but the Highlanders just became their kind of favorite weapon.
It's not that heavy, but you've got to be pretty strong to carry this about all day
and you're
hitting things.
And what's the techniques? It's a slashing sort of sword.
Yeah, slashing and stabbing. It's similar to fencing. If you see it, most of the time it was used in with the shield, the targe. I've got some videos on that.
Yeah.
So in battle, they were mainly using it with a targe. The fencing, like sword and sword, is more like your gentlemanly duels.
Right.
Most of the time, if you're actually just wanting to win and not caring about gentlemanly conduct, usually they've got a shield or a dagger or something in the other hand, something in the offhand.
Just whacking each other with it.
Yeah.
Just going for it. There's no gentlemanly.
Yeah,
no
I mean
sparring.
there's lots of Scottish martial arts and stuff that were kind of there's a few kind of Scottish masters, a guy called Donald McBain, but potentially different clans might have had different fighting styles and things. That's another thing I'd quite like to explore, because generally when someone says martial arts, we think Eastern styles, right?
Yeah.
But Europe had all their own martial arts. We've just kind of forgotten them.
Yeah. Krav Maga and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's Eastern European, isn't it? It's quite effective. There's some very highly functional, highly effective martial arts that generated in Europe, I think.
Yeah. So Scotland's we've got a wrestling, so backhold wrestling that you see in Highland Games. So that was the wrestling art, and then there was sword arts. Mainly sword and targe. Also these are the shoes. So when I did my 4-day trip, I wasn't wearing hiking boots. It was just these pretty much glorified leather socks. So these are my spare shoes. The first ones wore through. You wore these for 4 days out in the Scottish Highlands. No way. And they're actually, I was pleasantly surprised. See, when you're out in the bog, they're great because your feet are likely, even if you're wearing waterproof boots, your feet are likely going to get wet anyway. And what a modern hiking boot does, sure, it protects you for a bit, but when they get wet, they stay wet. And then you're just walking around in a bath. You've got a solid frame for your feet to rub up against, but these there's no friction, so you never get blisters. So sure, your feet get wet instantly, but then they dry really quickly. So it was just the leather portion. The wood is just to hold holding together.
Nice
little shoehorn kind of what are they called?
Langhorne, is that Nordic?
It's part Nordic apparently. Yeah. So I think.
Not just a stage name.
I thought it was
not just a stage name.
Is it not?
No, that's my real name.
I thought we had a look and we're like, that must be a stage name. There's no way.
No.
It's a good name for.
It's a great name.
Oh yeah.
It's perfect. Yeah. It sounds totally outdoorsy. I'm interested, just as you were talking about that, about being out there, wet feet in the wilderness in the rain. Psychologically, what kind of battle are you going through in that? Even in 4 days, there must be. You must go through stages. Even somebody as experienced as you, who's been doing this for a long time, do you still go through that mental battle when you're out there in nature?
That's the whole point.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it depends. I mean, that 4 day. Obviously, every trip is different and it's very weather dependent. That 4 day trip I did, you'll see in the video, but the first day was terrible weather, and although it was midsummer, it got really cold. It got down to 5 degrees at night, and I was trying to be as light as possible. I just had my plaid as a sleeping thing. I didn't have any extra blankets or anything. And I mean, initially the discomfort of the shoes, as in you instantly get wet, you kind of just get over it. There's a lot of things that it's like it's the initial thing because you've come from a comfortable house and a comfortable vehicle. It's the initial thing that's the hardest, and it's the run up to it that's the hardest. But then when you're out there, you're just out there. And then that trip. I mean, I've done lots of trips in the past where a part of the challenge was having no food or very little food. And I did a 3-day expedition where I just took a bag of oats, like this big, like sort of handful of oats. And that was part of the challenge, but then it was miserable in terms of calorie wise. So that one, the recent one, I was making sure I had enough calories, but it was all authentic food. So I made bannock breads and I smoked some venison.
But you took it with
me, yeah, and packaged things. And so it still wasn't like luxury, but I wanted the challenge was the journey and carrying the equipment, and I wanted to have enough calories to do it.
Yeah.
Because the rovers would have done it. They were tougher, but they're still humans and they still need calories.
Yeah, but they probably would have prepared stuff in advance.
Yeah, they would have prepared stuff.
They wouldn't have been just gathering on the way.
Yeah. I mean, you can gather. There's endless in terms of greens. You can gather your vitamins and your minerals and your fiber easily enough. Your carbohydrate, unless you're very lucky, where you a big patch of pig nuts or a big patch of what's it called, bulrush, then okay, you can get some carbohydrate, but it's very difficult to get enough energy from the wild. So you have to be prepared, bringing your own food, and that's what people would have done. Like at the very least, eat oatmeal. So you can make porridge, or you can at least just wet it in the stream and eat it like that.
Yeah.
But bannock breads,
natural, the current carbs out there.
It's very hard. And then it's your protein. But in order to fish, you might spend all day fishing. You might not even catch anything. So you can't also do a journey and fish. It's like you've got to prepare and then do a journey. The people would have led, obviously, with the cows. One thing that people did was controlled bleeding in the cows. Okay. So you make a small incision in the jugular. And basically you make black pudding, so you can fill up a bowl of blood and then nick over the wound so it stops bleeding, so you don't kill the cow, and then you can mix in your porridge and basically make a blood porridge,
protein rich.
So that's how drovers could have got some protein on the move. But generally people are being prepared. And bannock breads, which is basically just a flat bread, could be made out of barley or oatmeal.
The temptation to eat the cow's got to be real, though.
They might have done,
3 weeks into a hike to the
might have done, but if it was someone else's cow that you've just promised.
I know. Yeah. Imagine hiking from here to Cowgate in Edinburgh. What's that? That's got to be days, right?
Weeks. Weeks, and especially when you're driving cattle. That book, Drovers of Scotland, says they're averaging 10 miles a day because it takes. You're trying to run cattle, so
10 miles a day.
10 to 15 miles a day.
10 days. Yeah. That's more than that.
Oh, yeah, 30 days.
Oh, yeah,
no?
yeah.
Is that right?
How
far? 300 miles? No.
No.
Oh, round trip, okay, yeah.
160 miles from here to Edinburgh, probably.
Yeah.
16.
Yeah.
So you're 16 days.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm killing that cow. Just dragging it along with me. It gets lighter every day.
I mean, of course, you're passing villages and you're passing things, so you can't restock.
Yeah.
But generally, especially in the more remote areas, as I said, they were avoiding main settlements because they had so many cows. So you
don't want to be in there.
Yeah, you don't want to
get bandits and people.
Yeah, bandits, and also you're just going to piss people off if you're driving hundreds of cows through their fields of oatmeal and stuff like that, aren't you?
Yeah. That's interesting. That's so interesting.
And I imagine not too much the Highlands, I suppose, but it all looks different. They look a lot different. What you're walking through.
Yeah. Yeah, like you say, there's no roads until.
Yeah, no roads until General Wade.
18th century.
Yeah. So there was not even that many bridges. So yeah, most of the roads were built in the last Jacobite Rising by the British Army in order to get their artillery up. So it's there wasn't really any roads. So that's when these shoes are actually, they make sense when you're walking across rough terrain because they don't give you blisters. Your feet get wet, but then they dry really quickly.
Yeah.
And they don't give you blisters. And if they fall apart, which they do, you make them really easily. But you'll see in the video in the expedition, as soon as I go into a modern road, they fall apart within a few hours. And my feet were very sore. So obviously a hard surface. So you can see modern footwear evolve with modern surfaces.
Yeah. So walking through the heather, walking through bogs, walking through... Because it'll get soft, I suppose, when they're wet, it'll go soft and it just doesn't feel like you've got anything on your feet.
It's almost like barefoot. That's only really protecting you from like scuffs and things like that, because even a big thorn could get through it. But yeah, that expedition, I had a friend helping me, who was the cameraman, and he had all modern equipment and these big boots, and he had to bail day 3. Really? He was carrying a lot because he was carrying the equipment, but his feet fell apart because he had big hiking boots which got wet and didn't dry, his feet fell apart.
Yeah, I remember hiking in northern Thailand through the forest and in mountains in Thailand, through rice paddies and through monsoon weather. And, your feet get soaked and you're just like, it's horrible. Like, day 2, day 3, you're just absolutely drenched. Yeah. And you're putting those hiking boots back on in the morning. Yeah. After you've slept in a wooden shack. Yeah. And it's like, this is torture. Yeah. And that was 25 degrees. Yeah. And it was torture. So I can't imagine what it's like when it's 5 degrees.
Yeah. Although I do better in the cold. I think I'd rather. I hate the heat. So. I think I prefer 5 degrees.
Midges, they must be a nightmare, no?
Midges, yeah. So, I've had some bad experiences with midges, but you'll see it again on the expedition. You see it sometimes, but if you can get fire going, get a bit of smoke, or the great thing about the plaid, you lie down, you just fling it over your face, and it's like a midgie net, and you don't get any condensation. If you ever slept in a bivy bag, where it's like the plastic material, you get condensation problem, and it feels all stuffy, but because it's like a woven wool thing, you don't get that condensation problem, and you're protected from the midges. So as long as if you've done your foods and you're ready to go to sleep when there's midges, you just fling your plaid over your face and
this plaid thing is...
It's amazing, honestly. It's life-changing.
There's something that you spoke about earlier, or you never spoke about, you briefly mentioned earlier, and it's a topic that just pricked my ears. For a couple of reasons. We got you a little gift, actually.
Yes.
And it's down there. And what you mentioned was mythology. And I'm really interested in mythology, and especially for me, when I think about, Scottish mythology is probably some of the most famous in the world, right?
Certainly, Wild Celtic one.
Yeah, and I wonder just about the relationship between societies and the wilderness and mythology. And the reason that I'm interested in the gift is because this is one of Singleton's special releases, and it's got all their releases of that series have mythological creatures on the front of them. That one I think is very local. I think it's one of the local. I can't remember what it is. Is it a siren?
We looked at so many different ones.
Is it a siren or a fairy or
that's
something?
from the river, is it?
From the River Ord.
The River Ord. Oh, really?
And you mentioned it earlier. I wonder what your relationship with that kind of stuff is, Scottish mythology, and then how you sort of equate that to the wilderness as well. Because when I think about these stories that these people told about these mythological creatures, a lot of that has to be about nature, right? And I think a lot of it has to also be probably about society's own projections and what the wilderness represents.
I mean, I just find it interesting the way I describe it, because I guess in a way it might be confusing to people. Is that, wait, are you doing videos about survival, or are you doing stuff about like history and mythology? Like, how do they fit? But to me, it's just like the more you spend dressing up like people did in the past and living like they did, you also can't help but think about how they saw reality, right? And so it's just interesting how they saw the land. Now there's lots of superstitions and things, especially around healthcare and medicine, that I'm very glad that we've grown out of. But there's something about seeing the land, it just adds a different layer, like a layer of depth. So it's like, if you just see the land as a bunch of resources or obstacles, they're either going to help or hinder us, then it's just very flat and very boring. Then when you see it, when you know the names of the trees and the plants, then it adds another layer. And then when you know a bit about the history, and it's, there was a battle there, and there was a castle there, and it adds another layer. And then when you see it to the mythological realm, then it's like much deeper layer. and it's almost like brings the landscape kind of 3D, if that makes sense. Alternate dimensions, alternate beings, just makes everything much more interesting. And then when you tie in the Gaelic names of the mountains, the places, sometimes the stories are embedded in the names, and it just makes you. I feel what the mythology can teach us is a sense of belonging or a sense of place, which I feel like when we got rid, or when a lot of the superstitions and myth stopped being passed on, became less popular, we lost something which was like a sense of belonging to the place, or a certain magic to the land. And how I see it is relevant with the survival stuff. Again, it's just, well, especially the history survival stuff. Just seeing the landscape their ancestors did, the way they did.
Mythology is an interesting topic, because the reason that has stopped is because we can accurately record information. Probably, I would suggest that's probably one of the biggest things that stopped that. You and I, we could play Chinese whispers here between us, and the story would evolve between the three of us. The story would evolve from one thing. If we went round in the circle three or four times, it would change dramatically. So I think that's where it comes from, isn't it? Someone has seen something, and over centuries of telling the story, like Loch Ness is obviously the most world famous example, which I think was first spotted in the 4th or 5th century AD. So I mean, a long time ago, that story was told for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, by word of mouth, across different societies, across different civilizations. But that represents something to that, like you say, to that specific part of the world. And you see that all over the world. You see the Kraken in the sea. You've got the Kelpies down in the lowlands of Scotland as well. These things, they represent an area, but they also represent society and the cultures that they were born in. I just think it's really interesting how it reflects our view of the wilderness and our view of nature as well.
And I really like. Do you know about the Cailleach?
No. I was going to ask you what your personal favourite was.
I like lots of stories. In fact, my most recent video, which I'll release next week, is telling a Selkie and a Kelpie story.
Nice one.
Just cause, everyone likes a good shape-shifting creature.
Yes.
But I like the cat, because I quite like, I've read a bit of Joseph Campbell and a bit of Carl Jung, and the ideas of the meta story and archetypes of the psychology. I'm quite interested in psychology and how mythology can be seen as representatives of our unconscious, I suppose. So I quite like looking at mythology from lots of cultures from that perspective, because it's interesting. And I like, in the Celtic world, you have the goddess Brigida. So before Christianity, potentially Brigida was, Saint Bridget. She was the goddess, wisdom. Goddess of life, of creation, and the Cailleach was basically the goddess of winter. And it's seen again depending on what stories there are. You can see them as two separate things, and it's to do with the seasons. It's the cycles of life.
There was a handover, wasn't there?
There's a handover
between the two gods, the god of winter and the god of
exactly.
Of spring,
and you see that in lots of cultures.
That's interesting.
And it's to do with the time of year. So Beltane, the 1st of May is when Regis starts to wake up in what's it called? Around February. I can't remember the name of the Celtic holiday.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you.
It's gone in my mind. But then she awakens in Beltane, and then the Highland culture. That was when you would move your cattle to summer grazing, and you would live in the summer sheilings, the summer dwellings, and then Brigida goes to bed around Samhain, so Halloween, and then that's when the Cailleach starts to awaken, and it's all the cycle of life and death. And you can see them as the handover, two separate goddesses, or they're actually the same. And she is constantly getting old and dying, and then being reborn and dying. Yeah,
because she was personified as an old woman. The goddess of winter. An old
hag.
Bitter old hag, an angry old bitter hag, which is like it's the Scottish winter. If ever I've heard a description, if ever I've heard a description for it, that's about right, isn't it? It's an angry old woman, is what it is. But it's so interesting that stuff. And like you say, it does reflect civilization and society and our I guess our fundamental needs. If that's how the stories were told over time, the seasons changing. to these people, wouldn't it? You know, they understood astrology, they understood seasons, they understood all this stuff, but probably it was a way to tell that story.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's hard to really know exactly how people saw reality because it's so different in a way to how we see it. And the whole Gaelic culture, it was all oral based. It was all about passing stories, and every clan chieftain would have a bard who was basically the full-time poet, and he was constantly, almost like constant monologue of poems about reminding about who the clan were from and their identity and their culture. And they have lots of poems where they're kind of praising the chieftain, but it wasn't sucking up, but it was like giving them an ideal to aim for.
Right.
So it's like, even if that chieftain wasn't the best, you're praising him with the idea that it's like, here's the ideal that you should be, this is what makes the best leader. But there's lots of interesting stuff like that, and that kind of oral culture that's just how they saw their entire reality, the seasons, just their entire story, and we've lost so much of it because not many people wrote it down. Yeah,
it's interesting. And you get it across all across the world. You know, all cultures have the same. There's mythology across the world. It's not specific.
The fish that I didn't take photos of are the biggest ones that I've ever caught. So listen, when it's not recorded and it's just a Chinese whisper, I can understand how the story.
Well, you can see it. Like, there's ones that have got very obvious sort of. There's a very obvious story there. I mentioned the Kraken earlier, which is a huge squid, isn't it? It's a giant squid which takes over sort of merchant ships and stuff. Now, I think sailors back then, when they saw
a squid,
they saw, because giant squids are huge, right? They can be 30, 40 feet in length. So when they've seen them, they come back.
Exaggerated.
They exaggerate the stories. The artists draw these incredible maps. The cartographers are drawing maps with these huge kraken on them with their tentacles over the top of a ship. These stories are more romantic than just like, we saw a squid in the water. And it was pretty big, but whatever.
Listen, if you're out there crossing the seas, you want to come back saying, "I'm the toughest thing going."
Well, also you wonder, is there an element of you're out, if you're out at sea for months on end, you're stuck in a cabin with one guy or with
30 guys.
There's us all together in a room for months on end, and you're out and the sea's trying to kill you. You're gonna start seeing shit, right? You're gonna see stuff. You're gonna see stuff, and you're gonna start believing it. And I think these stories are they're interesting because they do reflect these, like you say, the psychology of the mind, the human mind. Interesting.
The musket there, is that?
You've had eyes on the musket.
Just one last wee prop. We don't need to. I know you've got a few
as well. I did it. Again, plan to get a firearms license and try to get a real one. But for one of my latest videos, I reenacted some drawings called the Pennycook drawings. So that was some real eyewitness sketches drawn in 1745. We don't know who drew them. Just some artist in Pennycook when the Jacobites basically came down from the Highlands and invaded Edinburgh. And he drew basically just what he saw at the window. So he drew certain like real life characters, some chieftains, but also Jacobite soldiers. So I was reenacting that and talking about it. So I got some weapons for it. So this is a replica French, because the French and the Spanish were funding the Jacobites. So there is a famous Scottish flintlock pistol called the Doon pistol or Murdoch pistol, which is full metal with a kind of ram horn shape there, but they were difficult to find, so I just got a French replica one.
Nice.
But that's again realistic weight.
Smart, right?
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What?
Can see it.
Yeah.
I feel like a pirate.
Yeah, that is good.
So I've got, it's pretty, I don't have all my props. I do have a musket and a two-handed sword and a shield and stuff. I have it with me.
I can understand why you want your firearms license. Just
Yeah.
Just to be able to fire this bad boy.
Well, he's got to be able to shoot at his new shields.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
That's why he needs his firearms license. He needs to be able to test his new shields.
Yeah.
That he's getting made. Who's making this stuff for you? You must have some contacts.
Shields, yeah. So there's a guy in Glasgow called Albo Targes. Nice. That's his full-time job.
Shout out.
Targes, yeah.
Nice.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Graham from Albo Targes. There's also a Tasmanian artist who's made me some stuff, and he's making me some. And then maybe if I've got time, I'll try and make some simple ones myself.
Nice.
We'll just shoot them with a slow-mo camera and have some fun with it.
I wanted to ask as well, is there any other guys in Scotland?
No, there's other guys dressing up as Highland, like plenty of Jacobite stuff.
But not making a living like what you're doing.
No, not
in
exactly.
Scotland.
There's guys doing tour guides and history stuff. But there's no one doing exactly what I'm doing.
I love how you characterise it as dressing up as just dressing up and running around in the wilderness.
Yeah. So do you get offers all the time for stuff?
Yeah.
Non-stop? Is it?
Yeah, this last couple of years has been a bit overwhelming. So, I'm grateful for the amount of opportunities, but it's hard to know what to focus on.
Yeah, a couple of dafties for the podcast.
Well, see, when I emailed Tom, he emailed back and said, "I love whiskey." So I think I was like, "Whiskey's going to be the goal," because everybody we've set the podcast up with has just been like, "Oh, I love whiskey. I'll definitely do that." Yeah, and it's like, sit around and have a dram, have a chat. It's going to be great.
I like a good conversation.
Yeah.
There's a few things as well. I know how precious they are, so I'm not going to say them on camera, but I will be hounding you for some of your fishing spots. If you've been out in the wilderness, finding those spots, I'll definitely be getting note after this.
Yeah. There'll be loads of spots that you'll have. You'll know this place. Is your land close by? Is it?
It's not too far.
Away?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Is it quite a secret spot just now?
Fairly secret. Yeah.
Nice.
And I kind of wanna keep it.
Yeah, no,
absolutely. For sure. No, I love that.
How did you come about buying a piece of land like that? What was was it an opportunity that came up, or did you go out looking for it, or?
No, it's an opportunity that came up. Basically found it online.
Did you? Nice.
Yeah. So there was a website that was selling off small plots of woodland that I would, I was subscribed to the emailing list, and I was getting emails probably 2 years, and nothing was quite perfect. And then that came up. I had running water. That was the main thing. I was like,
just getting that stream.
Yeah.
The stream through.
That's amazing.
Gotta have some stream.
Yeah, because that's really it's absolutely vital for what you're trying to do, isn't it? You need to have that running water, because there'll be a load of stuff that you can do around that. Are you going to build from the land? Like when you build, are you going to build a structure? Are you going to build build a bothy kind of thing? Like what?
Yeah, so I mean the idea is kind of have two camps. So one, modern, or using some modern materials to have a livable space that both my partner and I could be in, but then also where I teach have some historical structures. So I really want to make a shieling hut. Do you know what a shieling is?
No.
So basically in the Highlands they had a rotational agricultural system that in the summer months people drove the cattle to summer grazing up in the hills, and they would stay in really small, very small huts, basically. Yeah, huts, cottages. They wouldn't even call them a cottage. It's a shelter, a hut or a shelter.
Yeah.
And the walls are either stone and or turf, like squares of turf, and thatched with heather. But just a really basic shelter. But that's called a shieling, or an addy in Gaelic.
Right.
And you see them. I mean, there was probably, it could have been thousands of years, certainly centuries. People were living them in the summer months, and it was generally the women and children lived there most of the time during the summer, and the men were in the glens doing the main crops, so the oats and the barley. But there's lots of songs and lots of stories about sheilings, and you find ruins all over the place. Sometimes they're not even marked. Sometimes they're marked with the word shieling or addy. You'll find that there's thousands of them dotted around the Highlands. Some they're just small, sometimes circle of stones.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're a bit better preserved. But anyway, I want to build one of them.
Nice.
That'd be
Film
nice.
that, and so that will all be from the land. But other stuff, then the hut I've made, the shed I made is local timber from a local sawmill, but it's not from the land. It's still as local as I can. Brought in.
That's understandable. You need a bit of a base out there, I suppose, for when you're out doing your doing your content.
Still needs to be warm and insulated with a wood stove and some sort of internet if I want to keep making videos. And stuff like
exactly.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant. exciting.
Yeah.
Listen, we'll be following it for sure.
Definitely.
Following
Yeah,
the
yeah.
journey.
Definitely.
Yeah, come and poach the river, poach the stream.
Yeah, he's had that in his mind. He said
3-inch trout.
once he'd watched your fishing video of you making the fishing line, he's like, he's gonna have some fishing spots. I'm gonna definitely hit him up for fishing spots when we finish this podcast.
Yeah.
I was like,
Listen, we could share them. My time in the Highlands, whenever I'm north of Dalwhinnie Distillery, I'd say it's always it's always fishing.
Yeah.
It's always fishing.
Yeah, I got married up here this year,
Oh,
so we were coming up for the wedding, and first, as soon as I invited him, he was like, "Oh, there's a really good fishing spot near where you get married. Actually, I might come up in the morning." One day. So I called him. He was up here like 6 in the morning. He was like, "I'm already cast. I was like, "Right, well, we're just leaving Edinburgh now. I'll be up there in 4 hours." So he said,
"Yeah."
What sort of fishing do you like?
Fly fishing.
Fly's the best.
Trout.
Yeah.
Trout generally. Salmon. I prefer trout.
Yeah, salmon's a bit elusive, and I feel like there's so little of them. I just feel bad if you catch one.
Yeah, and listen, if I hooked a salmon, I'd be delighted.
Yeah.
But it's probably whenever I describe it, it's like what you were saying right when you first spoke about fishing. That from a young age, it's like that hunting thing.
Yeah.
Which is why I prefer fly fishing over sea fishing.
Yeah.
I don't. Sea fishing
more
was
of a
the
stalking element.
Yeah.
To it.
There's that being careful. It's like, right, I've seen this fly hatching, or it's this time of day, it's this
being
light.
careful not to cast a shadow on the water, and where's the wind coming from, and and some I like finding a loch that's got a bit more features.
Oh yeah.
Some lochs are just boring, and you're just covering area. But when there's like a little island or inlet or a sudden drop off, and you're like trying to get your fly perfect.
Yeah. yeah. It's good. You're getting into it.
He took me once. I fished once or twice when I was younger, but not really. And then we went once, and I just got 4 hours away from the kids, and just like peace. It was lovely, and I was like, I'm not interested in catching a fish particularly. It's just nice to get out into nature, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're not even going. We weren't anywhere. We were pretty local. We were actually in Pennycook. You just mentioned Pennycook.
All right, cool.
Yeah, just in the Pentlands.
Just in the Pentlands, it was lovely, but I've not had much experience of it. I'm no expert, not like him anyway. What did you have your wee flotilla thing?
Float tube. Really? I like my float tube.
He was in his float tube.
Nice.
He was in the water and everything.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a video for you. I'm telling you.
You guys, what you need to make a collab where you're out like in your float device and you've made like a little like a nettle. You've made a nettle thing and you're in a homemade raft and everything. That's what you guys need to do. The modern fisherman against the ancient fisherman.
I did one video with my mate who's got a channel called what's it called?
Oh, you're in trouble now.
Yeah. We're not editing this out either.
Listen, I can edit if you want to Google
it. He does fishing videos. He hasn't done one for a while. Mountain Man. Was that Highland Mountain Man? Something like that.
Close enough.
Sorry, Finn, I forgot his name. But yeah, we got a video that he was using modern equipment and I was using a stock hand line. Yeah, I didn't catch anything.
Yeah, it's going to be tougher. It's got to be tougher, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. That's why it's came on.
Scottish Mountain Man.
Nice one.
Scottish Mountain Man. There you go.
Nice one.
Yeah, nice. Good stuff.
I'll fast forward it a wee bit. Was there a turning point on the YouTube channel? You said kind of from 3 to 10,000. I mean, I saw when we first kind of booked you in, you were 200,000. Now you've got 12,000 in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
What was the turning point for YouTube? Was there a video you were like, boom, it's popped from there? Or
there was. It was
the
first,
Highlander.
Yeah, the first Highlander overnight. That's just made it grow a lot, and there was a turning point. I guess so. I filmed that April 2018, and it was probably kind of November 2018. So when I filmed that, I was doing the seasonal job in the Highlands, and then that finished, and I was kind of stuck. I didn't really know what to do with my life. I was kind of applying for different jobs. Nothing was really that exciting, or I wanted to get into the outdoor realm, but it was all like you have to get all your qualifications and stuff. And that video was kicking off and it was growing. And I remember when I filmed that video, I was sitting by the fire and I was thinking in my mind, I was like, oh, wouldn't it be really cool to like run survival courses where it's like about the Highlanders and how they survived? And then it's like, well, that's never going to happen. But then like that winter, a guy called Matt from Primal Bushcraft Survival saw my video, got in contact and said, "Do you want to do courses?" And he's got a survival company, and it's like, basically, do you want to run courses like through my company? So it was that. It was just like, well, everything's telling me to go it, and I knew the only way it would be the only way it could work if I went 100%. Like I couldn't just do it on the side. Yeah. So yeah, it was that kind of turning point. Winter 2018.
Great. Yeah. So lockdown as well. That must have been
Yeah.
pretty good during lockdown.
Well, yeah, it was funny because just before COVID, I made a website and I was kind of setting up my business with the idea that I would still do YouTube, but the main focus would be courses, survival courses, kind of like private, bespoke experiences. That's kind of where I thought it was going. And then COVID hit, and that all went, that all went down the drain. But then YouTube did great, and that, I guess that was another turning point. Was the most popular video on the channel is me just sitting in the garden talking about my Highlander equipment.
Oh, really?
And that was, I filmed that just at the start of lockdown, and whatever reason
everyone. How many views have you got on that one?
That's 1.5 million, I think.
Wow,
nice.
Yeah,
amazing.
How did you feel about getting your first million on a video?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you can't really think about it because it's ultimately just a number on a screen, isn't it? But I mean, more and more people are recognizing me in the street and stuff. That's
interesting.
That's more visceral.
I was going to ask that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you're a big name in the outdoors industry now, eh?
I get in a weird niches,
in the outdoor world now.
Yeah, it's weird. It's I guess and certain niches certainly in the internet. But yeah, I'm getting recognized more and more.
Nice.
Which is
long way to continue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff.
It's funny, we did the video about, so I was telling you earlier about Whiskey Club, and we did a Dalmore 40-year-old, so a 40-year-old whiskey, which is pretty high value. And we did an unboxing. The boxing of it is amazing. It's absolutely beautiful in this box. It's got a silver Hamilton Inches cap, and it's like mirrored box. It's gorgeous. We did like an unboxing video, but it was 40 seconds, 50 seconds long.
The funny thing was, we did a YouTube video that was like this angle, light here, big fuss about it, trying to make it perfect. And that's maybe, I don't know, say round about 5 minutes, but it took us about an hour to actually do it. Maybe longer. And then we did, at the end of it, we actually put the bottle away, and I better get one out for an Instagram reel and a TikTok. And that was the one that got over 1 million plays.
Wow.
And the YouTube one, I think, obviously it's a different algorithm.
20,000 or something on the YouTube.
Yeah,
on
that's
the
still
YouTube
good.
one.
No, TikTok was less. TikTok was
TikTok was 70,000 or something.
Yeah, so it's just quite funny. We put all this effort in, then it was just a quick one with the phone like that.
Yeah.
And what I was going to say was how interesting it is when I remember Harvey phoning me and be like, by the way, the YouTube, the Instagram one's like hit about 30,000. It looks like it's hitting pretty well. So we were kind of checking. It was like 30,000. Oh, that's cool. And then I'd get another message a couple of hours later, being like, oh, it's just 75,000. I'm like, oh, that's really good. And then you're kind of buzzing about it, right? And then it gets to like 100,000, 200,000, and you're just like, you just lose. Like understanding of what it is that's happening.
It's a number.
It's weird, isn't it? Because it's almost like you think you'd get like exponentially more excited by it, but then actually what happens is you kind of just lose the ability to understand what's happening. And you get this, and and then I'm looking like I've got kids, and they're watching these videos, and there's like 157 million views and stuff, and I'm like.
Kid unboxing toys.
I know.
There's some kid playing with a Hulk or toy, and it's like it's got 157 million views. I'm like, this is what the hell? It's so interesting how you kind of lose comprehension of it a wee bit.
You do, but man, we've had one that done well.
We've had one,
So I've not lost it. Maybe you have. I'm gagging on it.
just on that video. I know what you mean. Remember that that video going through it and being like, whoa, we've done 30,000. Whoa, we've done 70,000, and then it was 1.5 million, and you were like, this is bizarre and crazy. I don't know what's going on, and that's not. I mean, with the grand scheme of things, it's not a huge amount. There's videos on there that are doing hundreds of millions. It's crazy. It's crazy, but it's.
I
really
like to think I've got some YouTuber friends now over the years, and it's funny how you can get a bit too caught up in the number. You know how it's like to get a good video, it's about reading the analytics and trying to get the click through rate and the retention times and stuff. But I've kind of found it's like I try to think of. It's like a quality of video, because sometimes I can do a video that gets lots of views, but you don't get that many messages about it or opportunities about it. And I do one video and I might get hardly any views, but you get messages from people saying, wow, I really enjoyed that video, or it's like you get an opportunity through it or something. So it's like sometimes it's, yeah, or someone might stop me in the street and say, oh, that was that video you did where you just sat next to a fire and told us a story of a Celtic myth. And I was like, really? That's the one that you liked?
Yeah.
It's the one that I just sat and said a
That's
story.
Interesting.
So it's like there's different
qualities
of videos in terms of like, it's not all about the
different
numbers.
measures of success.
Different measures, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Getting stopped in the street is interesting as
It's
well.
weird now.
It's weird. We're doing a live event in a couple of weeks. Or next week.
Yeah.
Next week we're doing a live event, so we've got a lot of people coming to join us to do it. It's a mind mental health charity.
Oh, cool.
So we're doing this event. So we were chatting the other day about.
It's going to be strange, eh? It's going to be.
There's 60 people basically coming to this event that watch us live every week. They watch us stream live every week. So these people know us. They know what we look like, what we sound like. They know our personalities. They know how we interact with each other. They know us.
That's how weird is when people.
And we're gonna turn up and they're gonna say hey, and I'm gonna say hey, who are you? And then, but we interact with them because we stream live, so we interact with them. But we've only ever interacted over
a Facebook profile picture.
I'm kind of like it's gonna be amazing. But it's gonna be an enlightening experience for us. It's gonna be a bit of a strange experience.
I know
it'll be good though.
Cool.
Again, we're 1:45. I know you've got dinner plans, but I know exactly how I want to wrap this up. This was
listen, you're the guy.
Just are we wrapping it right this second?
Let's
do it.
The camera doesn't stop rolling, so it is as it is.
Well, thanks very much, Tom. That was Fan Dabby Dozy.
There you go.
You've been working on that, have you?
2 weeks. Fan Dabby Dozy.
Tom, what are your handles? Where can people find you? Let's make sure you get yourself.
The channel's Fan Dabby Dozy. I'm on Instagram. It's Fan Dabby Wilderness. On Facebook, Fan Dabby Wilderness as well, I think. Website, tomlanghorne.com. You can subscribe to the website and you'll get updates on courses and different crafts and stuff that I sell. But,
nice one. Should get a few million after this.
We'll
a few million.
And for those non-Scots that are listening, Fan Dabby Dozy.
Fan Dabby Dozy, well, so it's basically a catchphrase from an old 80s TV show called The Crankies. And I'll tell you a quick story of why I called it that. So it's basically, before I'd done any videos, the very first video I made, it's because I went and worked at my friend's. He got this resort in Malaysia, on this tropical island. So that was the first time I filmed anything. I made like a short video of just like cool shots from Malaysia. And when we were there, we were basically talking to some German guests on the island, and I was winding them up, telling them Scottish words. And I told them that Fan Dabby Dozy was like a really common Scottish word, just because it was hilarious to hear them say it with their German accent. So I came home, edited the video, needed to upload it to YouTube. I had to think of a channel name. Fan Dabby Dozy came to my head, and that'd be funny, and I made it that. And then years later,
now you've got 200,000 subscribers.
I can't change it. I thought about changing it around 2018, 2019, because I was like, God, if this gets popular, I'm gonna have to stick with this video, with this name. And then I did a video saying, should I change it? And everyone's like, no, it's like Fan Dabby Dozy.
Yeah,
so I've just got to own it. And now I'm kind of glad, because it means I'm not in a box. I can do whatever video.
It's a good name, but I think if I doubt anybody.
Fan Dabby Dozy.
Not Scottish is going to understand.
I never realised it was from the Crankies. I just thought it's just something my grandma says. Just something. Fan Dabby Dozy.
It's a fun word to say.
It's a great word.
It's a good word.
Anyway, nice one. Well, thanks again. Thanks again.
Thanks so much for having us. It's been great.
No worries. Thanks for the whiskey.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.